Good evening, and I'd like to welcome Bren McClain to Susie McMahon's virtual book club here tonight. We're going to have a great chat about her book, and we look forward to hearing from her all about this book. Usually, we read the bio, but tonight we're going to ask Bren to read her bio and let us know a little bit about where she is in life and what she's been up to. So, welcome, Bren. We're so happy to have you here. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much, Francine, and all who are tuning in tonight. I'm talking from Atlanta right now, and I'm doing my corporate work. Besides being a writer, I'm a communications coach, and I teach executives in corporate America how to public speaking and message development and talking to reporters and all that kind of stuff. So that's one hat I wear. But where my heart is with my novel, One Good Momma Bone. One Good Momma Bone was the third novel I wrote, but the first to be published. And I got to say, Francine, I'm incredibly blessed because the book has won several awards, the Willie Morris Award for Southern Fiction, the Patricia Wynne Prize for Southern Literature. The book was published in France, for goodness sake, and retitled Mama Read. And that was one of the highlights of my life was 2-3 years ago when I went to Paris and Bordeaux and actually met with readers, French readers. So that's, the book has just done, I could not have blue skied how well this book is done. And of course, I should say, because we're, book club of the Low Country, that it was Pat Conroy himself who published me under the umbrella of the University of South Carolina Press. And so Pat Conroy changed my life, and he's the reason I'm sitting here tonight.
Well, that is wonderful to hear. Having been to the Pat Conroy Literary Center in March, I can truly appreciate all that he's done for you and many others. I mean, that is just amazing and wonderful to hear. I would like to know where you came up with the idea of this book. Like, growing up, did you live on a farm? I get the feeling that this almost made me think that it was you in this story, that you had lived this life. Like, I kept thinking that it was so real. So, I mean, how does that make you feel to hear that a reader feels that way?
It makes me want to reach for the Kleenex. I mean, truly, that's about the highest honor you could pay me, Francine, for you to think that, that it was so real, that you thought it might be me. I'm not Sarah Creamer, my main character. I'm that story, any of those details, none of those details are me, none. But I must say that emotionally, there's some truth there, because I grew up thinking I didn't have a mama bone. And the reason I grew up thinking that is because I'm a twin. And my twin sister was known in my family when we were little girls as the little mama. Linda carried around doll after doll after doll. And Francine, there was me with a notepad and a pencil. I was already writing. And yes, we grew up on a 72-acre farm up in Anderson, South Carolina. So I grew up with a rural life, with cows and horses and cats and big gardens and all of those kinds of things. But I kind of thought, and nobody ever told me that I didn't have a mama bone. So I want to be clear about that. Okay. But I just kind of intuited it because Linda kind of had all of that. And she had so much of it that, there was no space left for me in that arena. And so, and listen, also, let me tell you this, I didn't even come to this knowledge until after this book was published. And I was asked a question in a bookstore one time that said, hey, is any of this autobiographical? And Francine, automatically I said, oh, no, nothing is. I'm not Sarah Creamer. I'm not this. And then all of a sudden I burst into tears because I realized what I'm telling you now, that emotionally the book is true. And maybe that's why it feels so real to you. because, like I said, I grew up thinking I didn't have a mama bone. And so I was married at one point. We had no children. I still have no children. And I've come to know from writing that novel that Sarah Kramer was me in the way that she didn't think she had a mama bone. That is maternal instinct. Now, her mother, loaded her up with that kind of thinking. Mine did not. It's just that I saw that Linda had all the mama stuff, and I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to shine in another arena. And so, see what I'm saying? And so I'm a writer and I read all the time. And so that's kind of where my thing is. And then Linda got all the mama stuff. But it was because I wrote this book that this is, like I said, it's emotional for me. Is that I learned from writing this book that I do have a mama bone, even though I have no biological children, that I do have a mama bone. And so the book is incredibly personal.
That must give you so much satisfaction to know that you've kind of come to that conclusion after all these years. I mean, I grew up not wanting children or to get married.
Oh, really?
Yes. And my sister was always the one that was going to have kids and get married and all of that. And now I have a daughter and people say they can't imagine me never being a mother.
Oh.
But it's not that my mother told me that. It's just that I wanted to live a glamorous life.
Oh,
because I grew up in the country in West Virginia.
Yeah.
Not on a farm, but going to my grandmother's farm. So a lot of this farm stuff, it resonated with me. Cows and baby cows and all that kind of stuff. So, and gardening and everything like that. So I'm curious to know, do you have children now that you look out for, like nieces or nephews or neighbors or that kind of thing?
I have 2 godsons. So that's awesome. I have 2 sisters, and one has 3 boys and the other one has 3 kids. And then my twin sister has 2 granddaughters now. And so, so I've got that. But, here's crazy. I told you I'm a media coach. I'm a communication coach. And I also view my students in my classes as children in a certain kind of way. And then further, I'll tell you, and this is like putting me way out there, Francine, I get that. But I feel like this book right here, One Good Momma Bone, I feel like this is my child. I feel like I birthed this book. And so, I have other maternal attachments, I guess you might say, way outside of having biological children. So I have that need met in me by kind of being a mama in all of these different avenues I just said.
Well, and also with your students and people, I mean, you're an example setting for them so that they can do well in life and they can learn from you and know how to work and be successful. So that's a lot of responsibility and that's a lot of love to give and information. Don't you think?
I do think. And wouldn't it have been a shame if I'd never written that book and I had never come to that knowledge myself? When Toni Morrison says that, you write deep, that, you get down to the bone marrow, And that's what I try to do as a writer. And what I tried to do in Mama Bone is to get deep, to get authentically deep. And, I think I must have done that because of the revelation I had in me that I was actually working out my own stuff.
And what a gift. I mean, what a gift you've been given in life to realize that. And I mean, it's never too late to realize that kind of stuff from you. I mean, and when you say deep, it was very deep with her husband having this child with another woman. I mean, I cried some in this book too.
Oh, Francine, did you?
Yes. Yeah. Because things like that really make me a little sad sometimes. And then I feel for the child, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what's she going to do with this child? Like, is she going to give it up? Is he going to have a bad home? How are they going to eat? All of this kind of stuff. And so you're like, I'm like flipping the pages, like, what's going to happen? How are they going to make it? What are they going to do? So I'm
Oh,
like, yeah, I just, I just love this, love,
oh,
love, love this book.
thank you so much. Can I address quickly kind of a second answer to your question about why I wrote the book?
Yes, absolutely. Please.
I had no idea that I was going to become that vulnerable and tell you that, because I don't go out telling what I just told about, I just don't, but I wanted to. You asked the question, I wanted to. But the reason that I wrote the book, and folks can see that there's a mother cow on, prominently on the cover, and the book features a mother cow. Actually, Francine, I think of this story as the story of two mothers, right? There's Sarah Kramer that we've been talking about, the woman who doesn't think she has a mama bone. And then there's a mother cow who comes to live in Sarah's midst, who becomes Sarah's teacher of all things mother. And the reason that component is in the novel, I wrote a second novel one time called Willie June, the one that I wrote before this one. And it was a story that I wanted to celebrate motherhood with. That was my whole goal. And it was because of the amazing relationship I had with my own mother. We were best friends. In writing that book, in that Willie June novel, my mom died. And I finished it eventually, and then let my two trusted readers read it. And Francine, they both had enough love, and I do call it that. They had enough love to tell me, no, Bren, it doesn't work. No. And in that book, I had created Sarah Kramer as the mother. And I fell in love with Sarah, but these words I'm about to tell you now are the death knell for writers, because both of them said, Bren, whatever it is you feel for Sarah is not on the page.
Oh my.
Oh my. You see, so it wasn't real. Willie June hadn't crossed over into that threshold of authenticity that you began with, actually. And so I put it up. And I started doing research on another novel that I'm writing right now. And then I was visiting my father on that farm I grew up on in Anderson. It was on a Sunday afternoon, and it was in the midst of a weaning. And if you grew up around cows, this is what farmers do with beef cattle at about age 6 to 8 months. They take the babies from the mama. They separate them because they're hoping that the mamas are pregnant. So they need to keep all that, milk and all the nutrients for themselves and the new baby. That's why farmers do this. But anyway, I arrived that afternoon in the midst of this. And if you've ever heard what it sounds like, it's very guttural. Oh, the mama's calling for the baby's calling back. And I just got to tell you something. I had said, hello, Daddy. It was a Sunday afternoon. I went in and probably fixed supper, and we probably watched some TV, and I went to bed. All right. Those sounds, those guttural, primal sounds woke me up about 5 the next morning. I got dressed. I went outside. I saw gathered these mama cows at this corner fence calling for their babies 30 yards up the grassy lane. Babies calling back, and it was this call and answer. And oh my gosh, I don't know if you've ever had this kind of sensation, but it was an electric current going through me. Like, oh my gosh. And Francine, here, listen, I knew that in front of me now was the missing piece about mothers that I wanted to tell. So I kept Sarah Kramer, and I'd created Emerson Bridge. I had the little boy already. And then I made as a centerpiece these cows, because there was this one mother cow whose eyes were cut at me, I thought, pleading to bring her baby back. And I actually, and listen, this took place within 10 seconds. I didn't walk out there and think and think and think. It was natural. I walked over to that mama cow whose eyes were cut at me, and I said, sweetheart, I can't bring your baby back, but I can tell your story. And that's the reason why that is, with Sarah, that's the mother cow and the human who learns from her. And so out with that other book. It took me 5 years to write it, but you have to be ruthless like that as a writer. It did not work. So out with that and start afresh. And I am so glad I did. So this book really grew out of a promise I made to Mama Red, to the mother cow on the deep corner fence.
Unbelievable. I love hearing that. Well, I'd like to ask you now if you do some reading. Would you read some from the book, please?
Oh, of course. And let me just tell you right off the bat that where the book begins now is not where it began when I submitted it to Pat Conroy. It was another opening, and it's my favorite in the whole book, and it's 2 paragraphs. And I just want to recite it before I read from the real opening. May I do that?
Yes, please.
So I told you that Mama Red and Sarah began a relationship. And Sarah, and you're aware of this since you've read the book, is at the end of the chapters, she actually talks to Mama Red, talks to the mother cow in a kind of confessional. And so the first words Sarah says to Mama Red was where I wanted to begin the book. And here's how I hear Sarah's voice. You done started on your teaching of me with my boy. Can I tell you that, girl? I don't know your name. What's your name? Mine's Sarah. I'm 6 days now into having to be his mama full on. But can I tell you something? I don't know how to be. I don't mean to be whispering, but them words, be a mama, they scare me. I'm lost. See, if me and you was a long piece of cloth, you'd be on one end with me clear across the whole wide world on the other, trying to hang on to a skinny piece of nothing. Because as good a mom as you are, I don't know how to be a mama. That's where I wanted the book to begin, with her first monologue confession. But my editor said, Bren, you can't begin a book with that. And I said, why? And he said, well, it's because you don't have any context set for a woman talking to a cow. And I still don't know if I believe that or not. But anyway, nonetheless, I just felt like reciting that part to give you a sense of that point of view that's in the novel, which is minor compared to the overall narrative voice. So I'm going to read from the real chapter 1, the published chapter 1. All right.
Okay, great. Thanks.
So it's can you hear me okay if I do it like this? Is this good?
It's good.
June 27th, 1944. One night deep into it, when sounds are prone to carry, a baby boy lies crying on Sarah Creamer's kitchen table. He is minutes old, still wet with his mother's blood and hungry for his mother's milk. But she does not hear his cries. She is no longer there. Only Sarah remains. Her body bent over his, her hands rummaging the wooden planks for a towel still white enough to wrap him in. Blood is everywhere, puddled up as if there had been a hard rain. The smell of it saturates the 81-degree air, pushes aside the dry tang of bleach, and fills the heat with the moistness of a long, shuttered earth, now free. The baby's cries penetrate Sarah's bosom and bounce around its emptiness. Her hands are shaking. A lone light bulb hangs suspended over the table. A pull string runs from the base of the bulb. It hangs as still as death. The light casts Sarah larger than she knows herself to be, beginning on the far wall above her husband Harold, who lies drunk and passed out in front of the open doorway to the porch. Sarah spreads high and wide. Harold's pocket knife lies atop one of the towels, the blade still open and awash in a red slickness. Sarah yanks the towel towards her, flipping the knife onto the table, still warm from Maddie's body. "Cut him loose of me," Maddie's words to Sarah, who delivered the child. "Get you a knife and cut him loose of me now." The towel in Sarah's hands, she twists the red and white spirals of a peppermint stick. "What was in my head? I can't keep him. Billy Eugene will kill me and this baby too." Maddie's voice almost too hoarse for utterance, her legs working to free herself from the table. She drops to the linoleum, heads for the door, crawls over Harold, and leaves on him a trail of bright red. "It ain't the child's fault he was born." Maddie's last words from the porch before the darkness drew her. "It ain't mine either," Sarah thinks now, and wraps the baby in the towel, brings him in close and steps over Harold and into the sweltering night in Anderson, South Carolina, where the moon is on its way to bed, and crickets, a whole chorus of them, sprinkle the farmland in waves. "Maddie, Sister Maddie," she calls out, her bare feet scurrying across the dirt yard to the vegetable garden they share, the rows running from Sarah's house to Maddie's. She takes the one between the green beans they would make in another week or two. She rushes up the few steps to the front porch and onto the green concrete slab, throws open the screen door and turns the knob. It's locked. "Sister, open the door." Maddie never locks the door. No one does. Sarah shakes the knob. "I'm bringing him back to you. This is your baby, not mine. Don't you put this on me." The door does not open. Sarah places her ear against the wooden surface, strains to hear Maddie's footsteps inside, hears the creaks her barely 100 pounds would make. But the baby's cries do not allow for that. Sarah kicks at the door, beats it with her fist, beats it hard. "I mean it, Maddie. I ain't no mama. You his mama. Betty's got your dimples. Now come get him. You come get him now." Sarah's words come fast, like the bullets Billy Eugene said he wanted to go fire on the people he called slant eyes, his arms pretending to hold one of the guns he kept stashed in every room of his house and pointing it like he could see them already. He never broke any of Maddie's bones, but he'd beaten her black and blue. The newspaper the day before splashed a headline that spanned the top of the front page, "War hero to return home," and carried the words that said Billy Eugene Parnell would be on the train to Anderson the next day at noon. That's in a few hours. "Me and Harold won't let Billy Eugene do nothing to you or this baby," she calls through and hopes to the high heavens that is true. I'll maybe read one more paragraph and that's it. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's great.
A sheen of sweat coats Sarah's skin, makes it glisten, and keeps the red of Maddie's blood that lines Sarah's hands and wrists and arms. Against the wooden surface in front of her, Sarah lays her head, wide like the rest of her, except her eyes, which look almost pinched together, as if huddling. Strands of dark hair, almost black and long, loose from her bun, lay stuck to her forehead and neck and sides of her face. The baby's cries ring in Sarah's ears. "I mean it, sister. Come get your baby. I'm going to count to 10. If you don't open the door, I'm putting him down. I am." Her voice has become shrill.
That was hard to read. I mean, I could hear the baby crying. You felt like you were right there with the baby, and you're like, "Oh God, what is she going to do? What is she going to do? What is she going to do?"
What is she going to do? Yeah. So she tries to give, the baby back because it's not hers. It's her husband's and Maddie's. And you can see in the reading that they're very, very close, Francine. They call each other sister. and she's the sister Sarah really never had. And Billy Udine is Maddie's husband, who was off at war, and he's a mean man. He's a mean man. And so that's a very dramatic opening to the book. But it's where Sarah becomes a mother, and this is when I knew she was made of the right stuff. Because if she had not accepted that child, I wouldn't have wanted to write the book, first of all, nor would you have probably wanted to read it.
Right.
But despite what I love about Sarah is, despite the fact that her mother loaded her the way she did and, made her think, you ain't got you one good mama bone in you, girl, that was told to Sarah when she was 6 years old. Sarah Creamer does the right thing regardless and tries to step in and to become a mother.
And I think the way you started it was beautiful, because you drew the reader in immediately. Like sometimes when you read a novel, we all know this, it takes a few pages to get into a story. Not this one. It's from the page 1, page 2. You're just hooked right there. So it's very quickly you're like, oh, I've got to see what happens. I got to stay with this. So
thank you for that. I'm deeply humbled. Thank you, Francine.
You're welcome, Bren. A beautiful book. I mean, I just can't say enough about how much I loved it. And, I was happy that I got to read something that maybe I wouldn't have read otherwise, because that's the whole fun part about, I think, book clubs and getting to read different stuff. So, so what are you currently reading now?
What am I reading now or writing now?
Both. You can tell me what you're writing.
I'm not reading anything. I'm one of these writers. I can't, when I'm in the throes of writing, which I am with my novel right now. I mean, I'm so deep into it now. I dream about it and think about it. I have to come out every now and then and make a little money, which is why I'm in Atlanta doing this. But Francine, I live, drink, and sleep it. And when I am in this mode, I don't also read. So, but a lot of writers do, and I bet you've spoken to a lot of them who do. I mean, a lot of them read a lot while they're writing. I just can't do it.
I think, if I'm honest, most of the ones that I've heard speak don't read that much while they're writing.
Oh, okay.
I mean, like I have friends that have 2 or 3 books going at one time. I'm a one book person. Like I stay on task with one book and that's it.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, can you hear me? It's Susie. I decided to hop in for a minute.
Cool.
Yes.
Cool.
I don't know if you can see. I just wanted to tell Francine and Bren, your conversation tonight has been absolutely spectacular. And there's been a lot of comments in the live chat and questions. Cool. I was wondering if I could facilitate one of those questions.
Please do. I love questions in the chat.
Absolutely. Let's hear what people want to know.
Okay. Well, first of all, I just want you to know that there was a comment just now by a neighborhood friend in Beaufort, South Carolina, and Rebecca Dwight Ruff wanted you to know, Bren, that she absolutely loves your original opening. Another wonderful local person in Beaufort, Estelle Ford Williamson, said, hi, I'd like to know how Bren keeps everyone she's met like her best friend. We met some time ago in Beaufort and she's met thousands since, but she always remembers me. And I think I know someone else that was like that in the past. What do you think of that?
Who could forget you? My gosh. Your kindness, your generosity, your amazing writing ability. Oh my gosh. You made an indelible imprint on me. Totally. And I can't wait to see you this weekend at the festival. I certainly hope I can. And Becky, thanks for tuning in and saying that you like the original opening, because I do too.
How fantastic. And then another question is from Shoshana Williams Conway and she's watching from Dallas tonight. She mentioned early in the book there's a suicide, and late in the book there's a suicide. Why did you bring in that theme into your story, into your
You
novel?
know, I never write with an outline. I don't plan anything. I'll tell you what I do, though. I only have one thing I do when I write a novel. I have one stake to hit in the ground by the time I finish. That's all I have going into a story. That's it. That's it. And for this one, the stake in the ground was for Sarah Creamer to know what we as readers know, which is she has a magnificent mama bone, not just a mama bone. She has a magnificent mama bone. And the reason I wrote the book and kept my butt in the chair all of those months and months and months is for Sarah Creamer to come to know she had a mama bone. So, and it's Shoshana, that's who asked the question, is that right?
Yes.
So that's all I had. So anything else in the story just comes up as a matter of following the story. I write like it's a movie. I write in darkness. I don't see a thing except the screen. I don't want to see all the beautiful creation that God has. I've got to create now. And so when I present myself to write wholly, it's a movie unfolding, and I just get it down. And so it was not a deliberate a decision to do that for the first one. For the second one that you're talking about, there's my antagonist is a guy named Luther, who is a real piece of work. He is the big cattleman in Anderson, and he is who Sarah kind of goes up against, her being the protagonist. And sweet LC, who is the son of Luther, who becomes a buddy of Emerson Bridges, Sarah's son. I worried about him all along, and I did not have a stake in the ground to hit with him or his daddy. I didn't. I was just going to let it play out as it played out. And I was about halfway through the book, and if you recall, there's a scene, it was a hammer mill scene, when Luther has given his hand the day off, and he's going to bond with his boy now, going to bond with little LC, and they're going to, put corn into the hammer mill and crunch it up, and Luther's bagging it up, and man, he's just going to have this father-son moment. And I got to tell you, Shoshana, as I was writing that scene, my mind, in a crazy kind of way, I mean, it skipped to the end of the book with little LC. And that exact scene that I wrote came to me whole, just like in a movie. And I remember taking my hands off the keyboard at that time. And I said, no, we're not going to have this. No. Now stop it. And so I just kind of shook it off and went back to writing, just following the story, following the movie that's in my head. And my gosh, when I got to the end, when I got to that part, Shoshana, holy camole, that, came right out of my hands again. And I stopped again. And because it still bothers me. It still bothers me a lot. And I stopped and I said, oh my God, no, I don't, this is not what I want. This is no. And I had a little focus session with myself. And I said, Bren, what else can we do, girl? And I said, this, no, can we do this? No. And I went, oh my God. And I just had to make the very hard decision to go as it naturally revealed itself and spilled forth from the story. Because one of the things I wanted consequences for Luther. I wanted consequences, Shoshana, to be that kind of daddy. And I didn't want him to, because somebody said, well, why didn't, he kill his daddy, kill Luther? Well, that put Luther out of his misery. So I had to make the very hard choice. Ann Patchett, the writer, I took a class with her one time, and she said, in order to write literary fiction, serious fiction, which is what I write, in order to write literary fiction, you must have the courage to play the hand you're dealt. And I recalled Ann's words, and I put it on through. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being so sincere in your answer. And Francine, I was lucky enough to meet Bren over coffee and ice cream, I think it was,
Yeah.
in Beaufort. And her sincere emotions and conversation like we're having now is even more powerful in person than on the screen. But thank you for that, Bren. I appreciate it. And Francine, did you have another question before we kind of do our wrap up?
I Well, I have a whole question about Pat Conroy, but that's a conversation for another time. I'm just so in awe that you met him. But I, it has been such an honor to talk to you tonight because I do feel like we're friends. I mean, your passion, your enthusiasm, your love for writing and people and friends. I feel like I've known you forever now. I
Oh,
mean, I, I
well,
mean, I think I just am stunned that I feel that way about getting to just talk to you here.
mm.
But how many months did it take you to write this book?
I made a promise to Mama Red on November 5th. I remember the exact day, 2007. I had to do tons of research about the 4-H experience and cows and 1950s, tons and tons of research. And so I actually finished the book in early 2013. So I spent what? I mean, somebody do math, 5.5 years, maybe, including I'm a slow writer. My gosh, I just plod along, because it's organic to me. It's organic, and I have to open myself for it. And I never name characters before they reveal themselves to me. I don't push anything. I just let it unfold.
Well, when can we expect the next book? Because I'm ready, and I know
Oh,
Susie is.
so I hope to have it. I'm taking that word out of my vocabulary. I'm going to have it to my agent no later than May 7th. And the reason May 7th is because I'm going to a reunion that involves the subject matter that I'm writing. And I want to look in those sweet people's eyes and say, it's done, and it's out of here. So no later than May 7th, no later. I'm going to do it. I'm on track to do it. And Susie, I'm going back to Beaufort on Thursday night, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
Make sure you all post lots of pictures of that festival this weekend.
Oh, we will.
I'm just wishing I was there.
Well, you'll have to come maybe next year. It's going to be an awesome one, I think. I'm teaching a class on Saturday. Fiction can fix things, and I'm speaking on a panel on Friday afternoon, the Willie Morris panel. I'm looking forward to it. I'm psyched.
I might put that on my calendar for next year.
I hope so. And let me know too. Okay.
Oh, I will. You and Susie would be the first to know.
Okay. Cool.
We'll have to start a tradition for you, Francine. You come down every March for the Low Country Literary and Leisure Getaway, and then in the fall for the Pat Conroy Literary Festival. I just wanted to let you know that even though it is the middle of the night, I have thoroughly enjoyed being behind the scenes and in the front. And I just want to thank Bren again for indulging us in this wonderful conversation this evening, and for being such a authentic guest and author. And Francine, I want to thank you for filling in for me again and keeping our book club plugging along. At that note, Francine, do you want to say your thank yous and goodbyes to Bren, and Bren make some final comments, and then Bren, you can sign off and get your good night's sleep, and Francine and I will do a little book club business if that's okay.
Listen, I'm so psyched. I won't be able to go to sleep. I might have to have a glass of wine after this. I mean, I just get so cranked up with it. But I don't mean to step on you, Francine. You go ahead, and then I'll stop.
That's quite all right. First of all, I would like to thank Susie for giving me this opportunity to speak to you. It was truly my pleasure, and it's an honor to do this book club for you, Susie. Thank you, thank you. And Brent, it was pleasure speaking with you. And I feel like we're friends, and we'll be friends forever. I can't wait to meet you in person one day. Thank you for giving us your time tonight. We really appreciate it, and hearing so much from you.
Well, I'm deeply humbled, and thank you for the opportunity, Susie. Thank you for for inviting me, and Francine for a wonderful conversation. And I'll have to applaud you for your interviewing skills. It's rare that I've found an interviewer who really just gets into a conversation with me.
Really?
Weird questions that sound robotic, that sound like, like you could ask that to anybody. I mean, I feel like you were dialed into this and invested in this, which I think is the real reason that helped pull the emotion out of me. So you're an amazing interviewer. So thank you for your kind attention. Thank you for reading my book, and thank you for your investment of time here. And everybody who's on the call, I mean, God bless you for that. And I love you all. We're all in this together. And I hope to see you again.
Well, thank you for your kind remarks. You just totally made my day, my week, my month. I mean, seriously, that you're gonna make me cry now.
Oh,
Oh, no. Thank you so much, Bren. Have a wonderful evening.
And all of you have a wonderful evening. I'll catch you again sometime, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Looking forward to it. Bye-bye. Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. Wow. I mean, I could just cry. She made me so happy. So,
I know. Look at you.
I thought about, there were two people that I thought about for interview skills, you and Zibby Owens, because you two would do it the best. You know about the book. You allow the author to speak. Right. You don't speak over him. You don't get into all of your business about so, wow, that's just so cool.
That's wonderful. Good job. Good job. Well, I just wanted to say hi, everybody. I feel like our conversations and things in the book club Facebook group have been a little slow because I haven't been able to be there to do it every single day. But I want to thank everybody that joined us tonight, and just to let you know, Francine, we've had a really solid author presence this evening. I wanted to say thanks to Sarah McCraw-Crow up in New England for joining us as well this evening. And one of the things she commented when Bren was speaking about her writing style was, she said, wow, words to write and live by. So I thought that comment was was worth, of course, reading and commenting on. And then I just wanted to chat briefly because we are in the month of October, and our featured author is Natalie Jenner with her Bloomsbury Girls novel. And we will be meeting with her in the very beginning of November. And then we have our makeup meeting in November as well with Susan Cushman. So I just wanted to remind everybody that Bloomsbury Girls is what we should be reading if we're on track. And if you didn't read John and Mary Margaret, that's Susan Cushman's novel, and we'll be talking to her later in November.
Sounds great. I'm excited for the next one.
Yes. Well, thank you again, Francine. Thank you, everybody in the book club, for being here tonight, and for those of you that are going to watch it on the little video. And I'll say I can't even say any words anymore. I'm tongue-tied. Buongiorno for tomorrow when I arrive back in the United States finally after my travels. So I look forward to talking to you again, Francine, and to everybody in the book club.
Great. Thank you again, Susie.
Have a great night.
You too. Good night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.